Let's get down to, just why don't you talk just for a minute about, that's one example of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You talk about people of peace. I think that's a really key concept is, where is God? Not that you always want to take the path of least resistance, but it doesn't have to always be the path of great resistance either.
Right.
So where is God maybe opening doors with a person? When we say love your neighbors, it's not, do what you can as God places them in front of you, but that doesn't mean that your whole life is about your whole neighborhood, or, you've got to walk with discernment and wisdom and how you invest. So how are you sorting through at a personal and family level of, as a pastor living on mission? And just give me one couple minutes on that.
I think of so making it harder than it is versus easier. I think of Acts 18, where Paul is going through all this horrible, hard stuff, and then he has the vision. God comes to him and goes, keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to take care of you. I have many more in this city.
Yeah.
Right? I love that verse. That it's just there's a lot more people here than I'm drawing to myself, and so keep doing. And so just having that mind about as you go, all around me, there's already people that God's at work, and He's planting seeds, and other people are involved in it. It's not all of me, right? The people I meet that now I feel like God's placed them in there. There's probably been 10, 20, 100, however many people in their life that have planted little seeds, and you're just part of what God's doing. But then where they just happen naturally in their rhythms of life. And so for us right now, it's my sons play soccer. 2 of them play soccer.
Yep.
And so that's families and people, and you're around them all the time, and their kids. It is our neighborhood, because we have a lot of people, same station in life, same age with kids, playing basketball at the rec center.
But that's the natural
stuff.
Those
Those are just the things that I do already. So I play basketball usually twice a week, and I'm at the soccer field at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times or 4 times a week.
Well,
we're already there.
Because you only work on Sundays.
Right, yeah. So I just spend time at the soccer field all day. Yeah, but you're going to take your kids for practice. I'm going to be there anyway. And so what is so go to the soccer field, like we were talking about earlier. You go 10 minutes early and pray, okay, God, who do you want me to talk to today? Who are the many more in this city that you're already at work? And just asking and being expectant that God's going to show you just in your normal rhythms. I don't have to go knock door to door, but I do want to be conscious, who are you going to bring right here today in my normal, what I'm already doing, and being aware of that. Every time I do this, it's almost like a scary, I don't say scary, it's be careful what you ask God for. You ask Him for patience, and then you're sitting in traffic, that old joke. But it's the same thing when I go to play basketball, and I lose a game, and I've got to wait, and I'm sitting on the sideline, and I'm shooting, and I'm praying, God, who do you want me to talk to? And then within 2 minutes, it's this really deep conversation. And
you're so much more godly than me. Because when I go to the basketball court, I'm checking all that out, and I'm just worried about am I getting enough arc on my shot, my form. Okay.
It's when I lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that happens too. Yeah. So natural relationships with neighbors, the overlap of life, soccer,
school, who you work with,
workplace.
So
my next question was going to be where you see maybe individuals, families, or even groups in your church doing this well. Give me a couple examples of how you see, because we have to be honest, right? Right or wrong, people think it's easier to be a pastor and live like this,
right?
And we won't dispute who's right or who's wrong about that. I think it's hard no matter who you are.
I will say that there's an easier part for me, personally, being a pastor, because people always lead with, they lead with, what do you do?
Yeah. And
so it's kind of if you're going to say, well, I'm the pastor of a church, then it's almost
what do you do, what?
well, then they go, oh, well, I go to church, or I know someone who's a Christian.
I used to go to the Methodist church.
Well, it's a loaded thing. But I would say that also makes it a lot harder in some ways, because there's neighbors that I've had where that comes up, and then it's kind of oh, we don't want to invite that guy. We have a party later, and we don't want to.
We're watching Georgia football. Right. There's going to be some beverages.
I might get angry and swear, and I don't want you to hear that, and so I won't invite. So it's both and. Sometimes it's easier.
Right, and that's what I mean. So I don't think there needs to be a rating of more difficult, less difficult, but there is uniquenesses to both, and so for for the guy dual income family, working husband, working wife, and kids, go to school, and so they've got a busy life, they've got a full life. Where do you give some concrete examples of where you see loving your neighbor happening?
Yeah. I'm trying to think some good examples. You mean other groups, other people in the church?
Other families, groups, yeah. I mean, any kind of...
I think everybody I know, when we begin to talk about this, just even like in our community, our missional community, everybody has relationships with different people. And every single person, if you really stop and think about it, can tell you that usually a lot, but everybody's got some friends that are struggling, or there's difficulties, or there are different things that are going on. And so just by kind of tuning your heart to that, of what's going on around me, getting outside of yourself, you'll immediately see all kinds of people. And so a guy in our missional community the other day was talking about his neighbor, this lady, her was divorced and all kinds of mess and different stuff, and so they were helping her move and helping her find a new place and doing all this stuff. And he's just doing this with his neighbor. I mean, it was physically his next door neighbor, but helping her move. And ends up, she gets a new job in Florida, and him and another neighbor end up driving her truck down to Florida for her, all kinds of stuff to help her. But it's just going out of your way to be inconvenienced to really serve this other person.
They're driving their car down to Florida to help her move there?
Right, well, the couple guys were helping, I think, drive her moving van to Florida. With her. She's driving her car.
That territorial part of me that you were talking about earlier about, it doesn't matter if they ever come to your church, it's like that part of me goes,
she's moving,
I should love that. That should be this person's job in Florida to love her.
Right. Yeah.
So, which is really cool.
Right,
really commendable.
But it's one of those things that it's you look all around you and there's people everywhere that need help and different things. There's a couple guys here in the church that met a lady who came to something we were having here at dinner, who just was in real dire need, monetarily, didn't have a job, different things. And they've gone out of the way to take her to job interviews, help get her food, go pick her up, go take her. Talk about loving your neighbor. It's just, in a lot of ways, it's just kind of inconveniencing yourself or putting them before you. I'm just going to give them a ride.
Yeah, so love your neighbor as yourself.
Right. Or things like, this happens a lot. People need rides to the doctor. They need rides here. I mean, sometimes it's within the bodies. A lot of times it's people that they know someone outside of. It's just going and picking them up and taking them to the doctor and taking them to this place and going and helping them. And so you see that, I see that a lot where people, there's some neat community groups that are really invested in their neighborhood. And so they see needs in their own neighborhood and they're doing work days in their own neighborhood. And how can we, you think of the things that you need help with, that you're dealing with, and then you look all around you and everybody's dealing with those things. Yeah. So how can I go and help them with what they're already doing?
So there's a part of what you're saying there, I guess, that's about restoring broken things. Literally, physically doing that.
Right.
But it really is a metaphor for what we're called to do in terms of engaging people's lives. And
I love when you think of big picture kind of. I always use the example. I think it's Michael Frost. He's a pastor in Australia, and he's written a bunch of. He and Alan Hirsch have written a bunch of stuff together about missional. What does it look like? And he always tells the story of think of it as making a trailer for a movie, right? A trailer for a movie has all the best parts of the movie. I want you to see the movie, right? And so you go and you see all these great big explosions and stuff, and you're Michael Frost tells you turn to a friend you're with, and you go, I want to see that movie. And so he says a lot of what we're doing as the church is we're trying to make a trailer, trying to paint a picture of what kingdom is going to look like. Right. The fully realized kingdom when Christ returns and all things are set right. And so when you go and you're loving and you are helping to fix broken things and you are helping to mend relationships and you are being involved in those things, that's kind of what you're doing. You're showing what does it look like. You're giving life to what God's doing in a very real, tangible way, which then opens up all kinds of conversations and discipleship and everything else that goes with it.
What you don't want is for it to be the movie where the only good parts of the whole movie are in the trailer, and then you go see the movie and you're like, that was really disappointing.
Yeah. Well, see, the good thing about the kingdom is our little feeble attempts are going to be way less than what the full realized it's going to be. So it'll always be way better than our trailers, but it does give you those opportunities, and it helps me to think of it that way. What would a fully realized, restored look like? And when I see those things that are not that, how can I help to be part of that? It's kind of it's a little easier to think of it that way. Where do I see things that aren't quite right? Or
I think something you said to me over lunch was that we were talking about just the importance of listening. So there's these acts of service or caring for or having people over for a meal, all acts of love, ways to love our neighbors, extending hospitality, just the ways in which we engage with life. But I think one of the things you were talking about at lunch was people are so unaccustomed to being listened to that if you have an hour conversation with a neighbor in which they talk for 50 of those minutes and you're sitting there listening and asking questions, that those people are eager to have more time with you because and they may not even think of it consciously as that. But you were saying how they're drawn into relationship because people in our world that's so hectic and frenetic, there's not a lot of listening that goes on. So one of the ways I think too, just in the simplicity, is love your neighbors by asking, how are you doing? And then actually listening to them.
One of the things we've done before, just training for evangelism and getting involved with people and all that, is one of the very first steps is go this week and just look for one person that you're actually going to listen to. Not share your faith. Doesn't mean you have to serve them physically in some way. Doesn't even mean inviting them into your home. Although it may be those things. But the first step is just actually listen to what's going on, right? I'm so guilty of this, especially on a Sunday morning. You're seeing all kinds of people that are coming here for worship and different things. I go, hey, how you doing? And whatever, and it's I don't even stop long enough to hear, right?
Oh yeah.
It's hey, how you doing? And there could be oh, I'm terrible, and you're already gone to the next.
I was talking with somebody just this morning on the phone about that very temptation to look past or through the person that I'm talking to all the people that I'm not, but maybe feel a need to, and how God's teaching me how to be present with.
Thinking about being Christ to the people around you. We also heard Jesus felt so deeply and was so invested and so whatever because he's the only person ever that was fully present with each person he was with. Because he's not sinful in any way. Whereas if I go sit with someone in the hospital, I'm fully, maybe somebody you really love and care for and you're fully invested and you're with them. And then after 30 minutes, you're like, oh, I gotta get this done, I gotta do this, and my sinfulness my selfishness starts to pull at me in all these different ways. Whereas Jesus was fully present with each person. There's no sin in him. He was never going, oh, I need to do, I wish they had stopped talking about this, or whatever. The things that we do, and so it really is a wonderful picture of Christ to people if you can sit and just listen to him.